7.8 jobless number. Let's play hardball. Good evening. I'm Chris Matthews down in Washington. Let me start tonight with the good news on the unemployment front. Getting the jobless number down below 8%, down to 7.8% a month before the election could be the upbeat news to give this president the kind of big-time bounce he needs. Since the campaign began, we've known the power of the unemployment figure. Now we have the number itself. Plus the good news about the last 2 months, it's clear that the economy created more jobs than previously estimated. There are some people out there who don't like this number, don't like it at all, and leading the band is the legendary CEO of General Electric, Jack Welch, who joins us right now. Jack, you made a lot of news today. Here's the tweet you put out this morning. Unbelievable jobs numbers. These Chicago guys will do anything. Can't debate, so change numbers. And I'm just wondering, I understand the way it works is the president gets a heads up on the unemployment number 4 o'clock the day before and has to keep it to himself. You're saying in your tweet this morning that the news went the other way, that the people that are working for the president somehow got the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and played with the numbers so it would come down below 8 today. How do you know? How does it work from your perspective? What happened here?
Well, Chris, all I can talk about are some of the numbers. We had 600,000 government jobs added in the last 2 months. We had 873,000 jobs by a household survey, which is a total estimate from 50,000 phone calls. Of those, 600,000 were temporary workers. Chris, these numbers are all a series of assumptions, tons of assumptions, and it just seems somewhat coincidental that the month before the election, the numbers go 1/10 of a point below where they were when the president started, although I don't see anything in the economy that says these surges are true. The 873,000 jobs in the household survey is the strongest economy since 1983. I don't think you can find an economist. There were 25 of them this morning that predicted 8.1 to 8.2, but they did predict 114,000 jobs. We got 114,000 jobs. Right. And somehow the assumptions ended up at 7.8.
Well, let me just go back to your tweet this morning. And it must be embarrassing for you to do a tweet now after the power you used to have. I mean, tweeting doesn't seem like something I hear from Jack Welch, and I mean it. But here you put out the word here, unbelievable jobs numbers, fair enough. These Chicago guys will do anything, so they changed the numbers. What evidence do you have that they got to the BLS? Chicago guys got to the Bureau of Labor Statistics and jimmied these numbers by 0.3%, as you put it.
I have no evidence to prove that. I just raised the question.
But you didn't raise the question. You said these Chicago guys will do anything, so they changed the number. You were asserting here in your tweet that you put out at 8:35 this morning, 5 minutes after the report came out. Did you talk to any economists or any people in the national income accounting world that understood how these numbers were put together before you accused these Chicago guys of changing the numbers?
Chris, I know that these numbers are gathered by a series of wild assumptions. Maybe they weren't right at 8.5. Maybe they weren't right at 8.4. But it seems coincidental that 1 month before the election they would end up at 7.8. The president today is on the stump. The president, all he's talked about is 7.8. He didn't mention 600,000 jobs added in the government
sector. But let's
get
back to it's not your attitude about Obama people care about. It's your analysis. And you came out this morning and asserted, not a question mark or a question or a concern about a coincidence. You say these Chicago guys will do anything, so they changed the numbers. Do you want to take that back?
No,
this is an assertion that there was jimming with these numbers. There was corruption here, an infiltration or getting to it's not funny, Jack. You're talking about the President of the United States playing with the Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers. This is Nixon stuff. This is when Nixon did back in the old days. Chris, he accused him of doing this.
Chris, don't lose it now.
I'm not losing it. Look at my face. I'm not losing it.
I can't see.
I wonder if you're Jack. Do you want to take back the charge?
No, I don't want to take
corruption
back,
here.
I don't want to take back one word in that tweet.
So you assert as of now, 5 o'clock this afternoon, these Chicago guys will do anything. They can't debate, so they change numbers.
I didn't say what they did. I said they'd do anything.
And what did they do here?
They've been calling Mitt Romney a liar, a falsehood.
You know, we've had a blind trust for how many years? We don't even know what's in there.
The blind trust is an age-old ruse, if you will, which is to say you can always tell the blind trust what it can and cannot do. You give a blind trust rules.
For the last 48 hours after the debate.
Okay. But you don't have any independent evidence. You didn't get any evidence between the time the numbers came out this morning at 8:30 and 8:35 when you tweeted. You didn't use that 5 minutes to gather any actual information or evidence that there was corruption in these numbers.
But, Chris, I tweeted last night that I predicted they'd be at 7.9.
Okay. And why did you make that prediction?
Because I guessed that's what would happen a month before the election.
So you guessed that the Chicago guys would do this?
Well, I don't want to put words in the mouth of what I said last night, but that's what I did.
Well, this morning, I just want to let's not go over the tweet one more time. I don't think we're getting anywhere, but the question that what started this whole band today had people of a lot less IQ than you, and certainly a lot less business sense, like Alan West, and some of the real screwballs out there are following the band you're leading, and the band you put together today was that there's corruption here, that the Chicago people, meaning the guys around President Obama, got to the BLS.
Chris,
and manipulated the numbers.
Stop it now. I've reviewed 14 businesses this week, from restaurants to rental cars to widgets. I have seen everybody with a third quarter equal to or weaker than the first quarter. In order to get 873,000 new jobs, you would have to have a GDP going at 4 to 5%. The second quarter was downgraded from 1.7 to 1.3. The third quarter is not going to be very strong. It just defies the imagination to have a surge larger than any surge since 1983, a month before the election. I leave it to you to do all the analysis.
No, I'm just going back because it seemed like you were doing that. Let me go to Keith Hall. He was Bush's guy who was commissioner of the BLS. And he said to the Wall Street Journal today, following what you said, there's no way someone at the Bureau of Labor Statistics could change any of the data from its surveys. These numbers are good. So why do you know more than him? I mean, do you really think it gets back to the question of integrity? Do you believe the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, lacks integrity? That a president of the United States, Nixon said he could never get to them. He used to say there was an ethnic factor. They were all Jewish people over there. He didn't trust them. He thought they were all out to get him. Now you say the president controls the BLS. Previous presidents said they couldn't get their hands into that place because it was so independent.
You don't think it's coincidental that we've got the biggest surge since 1983 and in the job surge? Come on, Chris.
It's 0.3 of 1% shift this month.
No, Chris, it was
0.3. It went from 8.1 down to 7.8.
It was 0.2, 8.3 to 8.1 last month. Right. 8.1 to 7.8. It's a 6% improvement in employment in 2 months. Chris, 6% improvement would require a GDP.
Jack,
the numbers
all I
don't
want to know
jive.
is when we write this down 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, when the election's over, I want to know what you meant. Do you mean it's a coincidence, or do you mean you have evidence that there was corruption here in these numbers?
I have no evidence of corruption. None whatsoever.
Okay, so these Chicago guys had nothing to do with the number coming out today.
I don't know that.
Well, why'd you say it? These Chicago guys will do anything. They'll change the numbers. You just said it in your tweet. I'm always careful when I tweet, Jack. I usually have somebody like my producer say, read my tweet.
Chris,
did you really want to stand behind this tweet?
I want to raise the question of these numbers.
You did raise the question.
Chris, these numbers defy logic. They defy logic. We do not have a 4 to 5% booming economy with 873,000 people at it. I mean, stop it, Chris. On the face of it, we don't have this GDP. I love you, but you can't get there.
I think you're a great, brilliant businessman. In some ways, in fact, I do wish you were in charge of my stock options these days because you made a lot of money for us here. But let me ask you this one more time, so that all the people out there of lesser intellect will stop marching in your band. Jack Welch thinks this is a coincidence. Jack Welch does not believe the boys in Chicago changed the numbers.
No, Jack Welch is raising the question for some good analysts to go look at.
Okay, good. You're raising the question. And you certainly did that. Jack Welch, thank you very much for joining us at the very top of Hardball tonight. And with me now,
Chris.
not to fight with Jack, but to have a different point of view, is Jared Bernstein. He's former chief economist and economic advisor to Vice President Biden. Jared, you heard that discussion. I think it's fairness because I like Jack. I'm very fond of the guy, obviously. Jack Welch has raised a question, but it was obviously his business instinct and his attitude, I think, towards this president that came together this morning at 8:35, and he tweeted out this unbelievable jobs numbers. These Chicago guys will do anything. Can't debate, so they changed the numbers. I'll go back to what I just heard Ezra Klein say a few minutes ago out here in the room, that a 0.3 of 1% shift in the unemployment rate is not wild. It's very conceivable. Your thoughts?
No, that's absolutely true. I mean, what I just heard from Jack Welch was about, with respect, I guess, was about, 10 minutes of absolute nonsense with no grounding in what the Bureau of Labor Statistics actually does. Now, he's absolutely right that a very large jobs number in the household survey is an outlier. It's unusual. These things happen. That number has a large margin of error around it. The Bureau of Labor Statistics is very public about that.
But these are non-politicians, though. These are absolute bureaucratic government servants.
That's the point. It wasn't that Jack Welch was raising a question. It wasn't that there's an outlier in the data. He argued very clearly that the White House had a thumb on its scale, was entering a political bias into the print on the BLS
That's
numbers.
what he tweeted. That's what he initially tweeted. And now he's come back from that and says he simply has questions. Go ahead.
That's an outrageous allegation, and it's an allegation that strikes at the heart of a statistical agency with a tremendous amount of integrity. I've worked at both the White House and the Department of Labor. The firewalls between them are extremely thick. The data processes, the analyses, the reporting are incredibly rigorous and careful. And this is a number that moves markets. So for a guy like that who claims to be an experienced businessman to come out and shed that
Well, he is an experienced businessman, so we have to go from there. But the question is, was he angry this morning? Was his political attitude more than any kind of economic analysis? I would argue right now, listening to him right now, it's his attitude towards Obama. And I think he is somewhat shocked that the number looks so good. He doesn't want it to look that good. Let's face it. This number's going to help the president.
Absolutely. So it's pure political, but then you shouldn't be then, you're right. He's for an experienced business guy who people listen to and look to cast that kind of ridiculous aspersion is actually quite damaging and shouldn't be done. Now, look, let's talk about the numbers for a second, because I think
let's get to the reality. How good is this news today?
How good is it, did you say?
Yes.
Yeah, it's good news. It's not over the moon good news, but it's good news. I think you also have to look at the payroll survey. There, I think you see an acceleration of job growth. And by the way, Welch has a point in the sense that you should never take one monthly number. That has nothing to do with political bias and all that nonsense. But there, if there's a germ of something in there, you should never take one monthly number. You should average. And if you look at the past 3 months, payrolls have been growing about 150,000 per month compared to about 67,000 per month in the prior 3 months. So that's a bit of an acceleration, a little momentum on the unemployment rate, too.
Let's put this in historic terms. We cover elections here, not economics generally, but Ronald Reagan was reelected with a 7.2% unemployment rate because he was able to say, this is morning in America. Right. And he set up the dynamic and the PR, let's honest, and he was good at it. Optimism was what he sold, and he was able to say 7.2 is great news. Great news. He got reelected with 49 states. Right. He lost Minnesota and the District of Columbia with 7.2. What should Obama get with 7.8? It seems like it's within the range there. And everybody's poo-pooing it. Oh, geez. Oh, I know why Jack Welch is scared. That number's too damn close to Reagan's number. That's probably he's worried about.
I think how this works with the president's narrative is that we're moving in the right direction. Don't change horses. Don't go back to a playbook that demonstrably didn't work. That's the George Bush supply side stuff that I think he can legitimately tie to Mitt Romney. He had a narrative that says the economy is moving in the right direction, and I think this job report actually strengthens that narrative. And much more than levels of variables, like the level of the unemployment rate, it's momentum that I think forms voters' views on the economy.
I thought it was interesting that Jack let out that last night he tweeted, I didn't know this, he had tweeted 7.9 was his prediction. It comes out at 7.8. That is not exactly a wild deviation from what he thought it was going to be. And I would just say this now, I have tremendous respect for the BLS. I know people have worked there.
Thank you.
I've known all my life it's independent. People like Nixon couldn't get to it. You couldn't get to it.
You can't get to it.
And for him to say that I think is bad, I hope he eventually softens I think he began to soften it today. It's not an attack on the integrity of those fellows and women working there, or it's lack of independence because
it's just the integrity of the system, which is that's just irreproachable when it comes to the quality and the integrity of the statistical
Why would you
system.
work over there for 30 or 40 years with pride and having a reputation for integrity so that some joker can call you, quote, from Chicago and say, change the number? Give me a break, Jack.
That's why it's beyond just sort of a little off-putting kerfuffle. I think someone who says what he said really should step back and think about that kind of a comment.
My guess is he is. Anyway, thank you, Jared Bernstein, for coming on to straighten some things out.